Hi, everybody, and welcome to Watkins Glen International for round 3 of the Race Anywhere Transatlantic Championship. I'm Greg Ginsberg along with Daniel Handover, and we are going to be going racing for 75 minutes here at Watkins Glen International Raceway in just a few moments. Daniel, let's go. I know we're getting into this a little bit late. Let's go. We'll run down the starting grid here, and we'll start off with, I believe, our pro category. Starting on the pole is going to be Erling Bomer, and he is from Finland. Then we've got Jackson Starrett from Starrett Sim Sports. Starting on the outside of the front row, Alex Treber and Nate Olson will make up row number 2. Then Derek McManus, Harry Wills will make up the third row in the pro category. Alex Ellis will start alongside Ryan Kaprowski, making up row number 4. Then we've got Dave Meneno and Sean Ryan with PJ Sturgios. And we're going to talk a little bit about PJ here in just a little bit. He won last week's race at Spa on track, but, well, there's a bigger story there. We'll talk about it in a few moments. Sean Campbell going to be starting right beside him in 12th on the outside of row number 6. All right, so why don't we go over here and we'll take a look, and why don't we bring up the starting grid. We'll run down the top 5 or 6 rows from the Pro-Am category if we can here. There we go. And starting off on the pole today, I believe is going to be the number 40 machine of Houston. Let's see here. That is, well, we'll run down here. We're going to run down the, there we go. Andrew Houston, he's going to be starting 14th overall with Justin Brunner right beside him. Justin is the last of our pro class drivers. Then we've got Casey Metzger and Fabian Massey starting in row number 2 of the Pro-Am class. Then Brent Bravada, James Costa, Blake Scott, and Tyler Campbell had a great race last week at Spa. Michael Kulaga and Joseph Smith. And then we've got Frederick Lavoie and Andrew Rasmussen. So why don't we jump over to the AM category, the AM category here, and we'll run things down. Sitting on the pole is going to be in that Team Premet car, Travis Kepler with Mark Scott starting 2nd, Sammy Lackey starting 3rd with John Casey, then Kyle Fredrickson and Andrew Hewitt. And then if we go and take a look at the next row there, we've got Ken Soska and Dan Floria starting a little bit further back than Mike Fowler, Drew Neubauer, Jerry Folkorb, and Errol Yerikskoy here as we're taking a look now. And it looks like I had a chance to breathe here for a moment, Daniel, because we're taking a full pace lap here at Watkins Glen International. It's a little bit shorter course, of course, than what we had at Spa. It is 3.4 miles. We are running the traditional Grand Prix circuit, the circuit with the boot. And that circuit or that layout of the circuit has been around since 1971, and we can see the field now heading down through the outer loop into the laces of the boot. But Daniel, you know, again, we've got some things to talk about after our race at Spa. A lot of late race heroics and some early race drama.
Yeah, like I said, well, at the end of the day, Spa was Spa. It's always going to be a bit of an interesting one, isn't it? Realistically, yeah, I think, you know, we've just got to sort of take it as it comes. Really, Spa was always going to be a bit of a tricky one, especially with the starting positions, and you had so many cars as well. It just all kicked off a little bit too much, didn't it? Realistically, which isn't what you wanted to do. I think that's probably the best way to put it. But at the same time, you know, we work through it. You know, we move on and we learn from it. I think, to be fair, everyone took some good. Everyone definitely took some things from Spa, and I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing in any way, shape, or form.
No, certainly not.
We'll just have to see. We'll just have to see how Watkins Glen goes. Turns 2, 3, and 4 are very, very crucial here. You've got to be nice and careful. We know how narrow Watkins Glen can be, especially when you've got 20, 30 cars all actually going through. There's about 13 cars in the pro field alone. It's going to have to be tricky. If there's an incident at the start in the pro field, that is going to collate every other person going forward.
Absolutely not a lot of room there going up through the S's as the pace car now coming onto the front straight. It's going to be dipping into the pit lane here in just a moment, and we will have the green flag in just a moment. The start zone now is underway. The drivers should not be accelerating hard until they get about 3/4 of the way down the front straight. That's kind of to control the speeds, but we have sitting at the front of the field, it is, I believe we've got Kepler and Scott, then we've got let's try that again. Bomer and Schreiber, Jackson Starrett side by side right now with Nate Olson as they go up through the S's. And Daniel, very much like we saw at Spa as they go through Eau Rouge for the very first time, it can be very treacherous going through those S's on cold tires. But we've got our 2 leaders right now, Bomer and Schreiber, going nose to tail into the inner loop, into the bus stop for the very first time. Jackson Starrett, he now moves up into 3rd position after having lost a spot on the start. Olsen, Wills, and Ellis. And if we look a little bit back further in the field now, we've got our second pack starting to make their way through, and we've got the number 40 machine of Houston. He's got the point right now, but as our field starts to make their way into the inner loop, things do start to straighten out here a little bit, and you can we should see our 3rd field start to make their way up through the S's here in just a moment.
Indeed, we will. Let's have a look. So we got, at the moment, Travis Kepler and Mark Scott have really made a jump. They're going to go side by side. That's very aggressive early on, but they managed to make it through the first time, as does, at the moment, everyone else. Carl Fredrickson currently running in P6 overall. Good, respectable positions gained from him at the moment. We've seen a few people gain some quite hefty positions already. We'll have to see how they start to move forward as the race progresses. Jackson Starrett has had an incident. What has happened to Jackson Starrett? We're going to have to see. He's dropped right down at the bottom of the field. So is Nathan Olson. Oh,
Nate
dear.
Olson, and it looks like Dan Tenorio. Well, not showing that. I don't think Dan Tenorio actually took to the track. I'm not showing any word on him. He's still showing in the pit lane, however. Yeah, let's see if we can take a look and see exactly what happened there.
We're going to get the replay up in a few moments' time. Meanwhile, a little bit further down in the AM categories, we do have, this is Jay Steffi versus Matthew Plaisance. Eric Kalaga's just behind as well. Let's not count those drivers out because they may want to have a bit of a look. And that is Jay Steffi did indeed pass Matthew Plaisance. And I think Eric Kalaga's gone through as well. So a couple of positions lost there in the AM category. Good stuff. Everyone relatively clean. That's in a few little instances, which we will have a look at in a few moments' time. Fabian Massa has had a moment. Where is that? I can't quite see where that is. Is it on the start-finish line? It might very well be. We'll have to look. Can we see a car that's just... We do see a car taken to the pits. I believe that is indeed Fabian Massa there. But let's have a look on the earlier instance. And let us have a look at what happened between the 2 leaders currently. Or actually, sorry. What happened to Jackson Starrett and Nathan Olson? Is it just... Oh, carbon copy.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, and 2 cars going around, just coming out of turn 9. That is probably, having driven Watkins Glen so many times in real life, probably one of the most challenging corners. It's off camber, it's a reducing radius corner, and especially on cold tires, very, very hard once you put that, when you try and get the feet in the throttle there. Definitely a tendency to send the rear end of the car around, as those 2 drivers did, and as we saw, they have taken to the pit lane.
Yeah, it's a shame at the start. Like, cold tyres don't help the situation as well. I mean, realistically, that was probably always going to happen. The car was always going to rotate. The car was always going to turn around. It is a bit of a shame. Hopefully, the cars are going to be repaired and they can then crack on again. But yes, it is a little bit tricky. You have got to play easy. You've got to really, really take your time, especially and just nurse the car around in these, in the very, very, in the early stages of the race.
Right.
But we'll just have to see. Again, it's not over yet. 75-minute race, a lot can happen, as we know. So we'll have to see how the race develops for both Jackson Starrett and Nathan Olson, see if they can make any possible positions up as it stands. Brett Bavata currently only a couple of cents away from Casey Metzger in the... this is the... Twisted, I believe this is the Twisted Lamborghinis. Yes, it is indeed.
Yes,
the 2 Lamborghinis of Metzger and Bavata. Teammates currently 2 tenths behind one another, or 2 tenths apart from them. And then Andrew Houston isn't too far up the road, is he, realistically?
No.
So I wonder if that's going to be... Could be biding their time at this moment in time, I wonder.
do a little fuel savings there down that long run over towards the inner loop towards the bus stop here, but still, just barely outside of the draft there as they come through now through the outer loop. You'll see here, it looks like most of our cars have exited the pit lane. However, another driver having some issues. This is going down the laces of the boot coming out of turn 7. Let's take a look here as they come just past the apex. Oh, is that the 84 machine having some problems there and runs off, and looks like that caused some issues a little bit further up the road as well. Let's take a look again. Yeah,
concertina effect, easily, very, very hard to adjust, very, very hard to adapt to, very hard to react. Just unfortunately, yeah, not ideal, but we'll, again, nothing could have been done there, really nothing. By the time that that was recognized as something actually happening, it had already happened. It's one of those ones. I've been in that.
It's too late. Exactly.
Yeah, I've been in that position myself. It's not nice.
Yeah, and that's the one thing here about Watkins Glen. I mean, it is a track that absolutely promotes speed. You'll notice that so many corners here, very heavily cambered, allows you to carry a lot of speed through the corner. But if you get offline just a little bit, if you feed in a little bit too much throttle, there's nothing there but that blue Armco keeping you on the track there. And certainly, if you lose the car, you go off into that grass, the Armco, it's very, very close, and it's not hard to have a car bounce back out on track right ahead of you. It can lead to some very big incidents here at Watkins Glen as we're on board right now with Ryan Kaprowski, and looks like he has Bruner right behind him in the number 2 machine with Derek Ekmanis a little bit further back. And actually, I think the driver just ahead of him, that is Dave Meneno right up ahead as they make their way down into the toe of the boot.
Kaprowski up the inside of Justin Brunner, managed to make it stick. Audi versus McLaren. At the moment, the Audi is coming on top, so Kaprowski making that move. Sean Campbell's actually just got up the inside. He's still, actually, no, he's trying to go around the outside. That's very, very brave. But Sean Campbell just about, can't quite make it stick, but he's then going to be on the inside going into the last few complex of corners, and the last few set of corners, manages to get it stopped. But look at that, Alex Ellis, he's not giving up the position that easily. He wants to stick around the outside. It's going to go side by side into the second last corner. Brave stuff from both drivers here. And you know what? They're still going to go side by side. Who is actually going to come out on top? I don't know. The McLaren tend to be a little bit more twitchy on these medium speed corners, but Sean Campbell managing it well. This is going to put, actually, PJ Sturgio's is having a bit of a batter. Well, he's trying to get involved as well. He's got front row seats.
Exactly. I was going to say, is those two drivers have now been side by side for the last 5, actually 6 corners. PJ Sturgio's obviously doesn't have a lot of options here. He can pick which horse is a little bit faster. Right now, neither one is, but obviously he's been able to pull up in the draft. It's going to be a big question there as to whether Meneno can actually see him right there, and whether or not there's going to be an issue now as they come down hard under braking, going down into the bus stop, and you can see there now as the BMW gets a little bit harder on the binders, decides to drop into the back of that little battle there.
Yeah, Sean Campbell actually did eventually make that move stick on Alex Ellis, so that is him now up into P3. As Steve Martinez, what has happened to Steve Martinez? Oh, that's a big crash going on to the second to last corner. Interesting, not entirely sure what's happened there. We're going to get a replay of that hopefully in a few moments' time. Sammy Lackey first. Let's just have a quick look at Steven Martinez. Here comes the instant. I'm guessing it's a drop on the curb or on the grass. A little bit too wide. Actually, no. Oh, that would be Sammy Lackey then. I would be guessing. Let's have a look at it. I think it is. Yes.
Yeah, and again here at the Glen, you come out of turn 10. Oof, as he just comes over, impacts the tire wall there. But again, not a lot of places to go. And turn 10, a very high-speed corner, and certainly as the car was spinning center of the track, not a lot of reaction time and not a lot of places that you could put that car and get through safely. No, not realistically. Again, it's just one of those things you've just got to be conscious of. Nothing that really could have been done, to be perfectly honest there. It's just... Oh! That's a big crash. What has happened there? Oh, my goodness. Yeah, there we go. We had that Gulf liveried McLaren. Was that Bridges that I don't think that was Bridges that went around. But as he came across the track, wasn't able to get the car locked down and came right across. Cars going past the apex there at turn 7. So lots of issues here early on. Again, very narrow track, lots of high speed to the corners, not a lot of reaction time. So let's take a look here at the field. And let's see, as we're on board now with, I believe, with the number 1 machine of, probably not the number 1 machine, that's Bridges, who is currently leading. Is that the, let's see which class that is. That would be the Pro-Am.
So there's Matthew Plaisance, number 12, has a moment, and it all just goes wrong behind. So Matthew Plaisance just sort of like, he just parted there naturally as you would. And then all of a sudden, it just went a little bit wrong. Here is Jason Bridges, number 35. So again, just loses. Yeah. Just the McLaren actually in front loses it first.
Yes, yeah, I was going to say, I thought the McLaren ended up losing it. He was a bit out of the groove, wasn't able to get the car down to the apex, and the rear end walked on him as he started to put in some more throttle, and you know, obviously a challenge for the folks up behind. I think the Lamborghini going around certainly was you know, just added fuel to the fire there for the other drivers trying to make their way through.
Yeah, so I mean, Sigelcow's actually just got past Michael Kilaga in the Pro-Am category. Yeah, again, you know, you just can't necessarily, you can't be too, you know, you can't really say much about that again because hardly anything happened. It all happened so fast. You've just got to be so careful. And again, realistically, it was a position that was never going to be avoided. Realistically, it just, you know, the fact it all happened so fast. And I'll tell you what, it doesn't actually help either. Is the fact that the McLaren just has a tendency to just rotate on you without really any warning.
Yes.
So that doesn't help the fact, you know, that doesn't help the item either, really, because you never know what the car is actually going to do.
All right, we're on board right now with the Mercedes of Mark Sigelcow, and right behind, looks like we've got the Lamborghini of Michael Kulaga. Sigelcow's picked up 6 positions since the start of the race here, and I believe, again, that is the battle for 6th right now in the Pro-Am field. But so good run for him so far. Now, I wanted to mention real quick, I talked about it at the very top of the show, PJ Sturgios, who's currently running 3rd overall. He's running about a second back, I think. There he is, coming out of turn 9. They're right back behind Sean Campbell in the number 26. And by the way, Campbell has made up 10 spots since the start of this race. Now, Sturgios took the overall win on track at Spa a week ago. But we did have an incident at Spa on the very first lap. We ended up going to a full course caution. And on the restart, it was ruled that Sturgios jumped at the restart, and he was given a 1-minute penalty, apportioned after the race was completed. That moved him back to P6, and that definitely goes and impacts the point standings currently, as Sturgios, I believe, has now dropped back to 5th in the points, and again, this is after 2 rounds. So, and in a 10-round season with a single drop, still definitely the opportunity for him to move back up. But you know, again, that penalty, very hurtful for PJ Sturgios.
A penalty is a penalty. It never gets any easier to deal with, to be fair. You know, regardless of where you are, regardless of, you know, how many points you are ahead or behind or whatever it may be, ultimately it's still going to have a fairly big effect. Not necessarily on, whether it's, like I said, not necessarily on position gains or anything like that, but just more so on from a mental state as well. It's never nice getting a penalty. So, you know, we do tend to see this a little bit that, you know, if you do get again, I've been in that position. If you do get a penalty, it can really mess with your head, especially if, you know, you sort of know it's already coming. You know the inevitable. Right. You know, that always, it makes it even worse because it's not a matter of if, it's normally a matter of when, which again isn't ideal. So, a bit of a shame, but at the same time, PJ Sturgios, he's currently running in P3. Definitely not a bad position for him to be in at this moment in time. Just needs to head down, push forward, and he'll be well on his way, I am sure. As it goes, though, just have a quick look. Brent Bavatu, we're currently riding now on board with. Casey Metzger, this is the battle for the lead in the Pro-Am category, and they're only 2/10 apart. So nice and close in the Pro-Am field.
Yeah, very, very tight there as we take a look, and both drivers had moved up through the field. They're over in as far as overall order there. I believe they've been in that station there since the very start of this race. You can see them using as much of the pavement as possible there as they come through the 90 through turn 1. Certainly not to the extent that the NASCAR boys do, where they seem to basically pull that car back on track just at the very last minute. But about 8 years ago, Watkins Glen added the asphalt there to the runoff at turn 1. It used to be a gravel trap, and it's really opened up and increased the speeds for better or for worse up through the S's here as we continue on with this battle for the lead in the Pro-Am category. Just ahead of them, we've got Jackson Starrett and Sean Ryan, and I believe that is the battle for 11th right now in the Pro category just ahead, but running very similar lap times to them. Are Metzger and Bravado.
I didn't know that about. I didn't know that at all about Watkins Glen.
Yeah, they've made a lot of changes over the years, primarily in the name of safety here. And speaking of which, as we go into the inner loop there to the bus stop, we've got Kyle Fredrickson as well with I think Errol Yerksoy right back just a little bit. There, and another area there where they removed the gravel and put in asphalt was actually on the outside of the bus stop, the inner loop, as well, and it's kept a lot of cars, and at least in real life, from flipping over there, which was always a big problem.
Yeah, I think we've had a couple of issues with that over in the UK. I think Donington Park, they were looking at doing some readjustments. So the same with Paddock Hill Bend, turn 1 at Brands Hatch. That is that's a dangerous corner if you get it wrong. Because most of the time you're going sideways, and that's definitely not what you want. Further up the field in the Pro-Am category, Lyndon Lee and Wilson Brewer, Audi versus Porsche, Battle of the Germans. They are now having a bit of a scrap at the moment. It was a scrap. It's now since died off a little bit by the looks, but it might not be too long before it's back up once again. Gap is just coming under a tenth of a second. Here we go. So this is Brewer coming around the outside. That's a brave move at the best of times. Can't quite make it stick though. Lyndon Lee has the track position at that moment that was never, unfortunately, going to work unless you're right alongside someone and you're an absolute bandit on the brakes. There's a very, very small chance that a move like that will actually work, or at least work safely. Yeah, and I think that this may be the first outing for Brewer out here. Lyndon Lee did take the win. Actually, no, I take that back. He finished in third last week at Spa, but he is currently tied for the lead in the Pro-Am after 2 weeks with John Cooper in his Lamborghini. Right, I see.
And
gotcha.
a lot of drivers taken to the pit lane now, as you saw there. We've got Steffi, who's there, Andrew Hewson, who started off as the pole sitter in the Pro-Am category. He is currently in the pits. We've got Eric Kulaga has taken to the pits as well as Sammy Lackey, Andrew Hewitt as well.
Daniel Floria, I've just been told, has had an incident. I wonder what happened. So I think this will be why so many people are in the pits, is because so many people we've had a few people that have had some incidents. On the grass, that was never going to work. Whoa.
Oh yeah, dropping a wheel going into the bus stop, did not even get to the entry there, and as you saw, you get into that blue Armco and it will be the death of you, as that McLaren just picked up in the air and shot all the way across the pavement here. As we jump back now to the battle with Lyndon Lee and Brewer here, as they are nose to tail. And I think for a moment we're actually going to jump back up. This is now the battle. Is this the battle for the lead? This is the battle for second. Yeah, okay.
So that was PJ Sturgis actually taking the position off Sean Campbell.
Sean Campbell moving the McLaren now back down to third. Campbell made up 9 positions in the first 2 laps here. So great start for him. Of course, we do invert our fields based on the current points totals in the series, And so we did have Campbell starting a little bit further back, and Sturgios as well. But they both worked their way towards the front of the field. Alex Treber, who started off, I believe, in third on the inside of row number 2. He still holds the point, however, but only about a half second separating him from Sturgios and Campbell.
Indeed. Nathan Olsen's just had a bit of... I'm seeing a lot of this, actually. I drove 4 or 5 laps before I jumped in the comms booth and got the stream ready. I noticed that the rear of this Lamborghini is very tail happy. It doesn't matter what you really do with the setup. I was adjusting the brake bias quite far forward, and it just was not playing ball whatsoever. Which was a little bit frustrating, actually, because I really enjoyed the Lamborghini. It just needs to take a bit of time to get used to it. So I have seen this happen before with a couple of drivers. It just tends to rotate on them. Let's say, rotated on me a couple of times. And it's very, very hard to get it back. So we'll have to see again how the car sort of behaves itself throughout the stint. It may start coming on a little bit more towards the latter half. Pro field, top 3. This is it. This is the top 3. This is the battle for first in class. And there's literally nothing between them. In fact, you know what? PJ Sturgis wants to have a bit of a move. God, I tell you what, Treber's actually he's left the door open for him. Treber's just gone, thank you very much. He goes up the inside. Look at Sean Campbell going to have a bit of a look as well.
That's right, and he's going to end up getting himself locked out as they make the run now down into turn 8. Very heavy braking corner here. You can see the overrun, that beautiful flame shooting out of the back of the McLaren as they come through. And as Treber now stuck to the outside, he's got preferred line now going into turn 9. We'll see if he can push the McLaren out just a little bit, but you can see there the McLaren, because he didn't have to pinch off the exit of the corner, he's able to drive right around the McLaren as they now come through turn 10, but that moves PJ Sturgis up into the lead. That moves Sean Campbell back into second, and our previous leader Alex Treber move him back now down to third in the number 30 Mercedes.
It's amazing how it can all change in a flash, isn't it? It's really, really surprising how it can all change in a flash. Errol Urksoy, he has actually just gone up he's made a move on John Casey. So now up into P4. So we're going to see if we can get that replay now for you, so we can see what happened there. And it is coming up for you just now. I wonder, is it going to be? It's a very, very brave move. So having it up the inside of John Casey goes a little bit wide, but again, to be fair to Errol, manages to keep that momentum going forward and didn't get sucked into going too wide himself. Well, it's very, very it's quite common actually. So if you see someone ahead of you immediately go wide, you tend to follow them. You need to make sure, that's why we need to make sure we're looking ahead, looking forward to what's going on. Otherwise, exactly what would happen there is if Casey has went off, then Errol may have actually followed him through. That wasn't the case, though, and that is another position for Urksoy.
And not only that, but it looks like Don Hunter has made his way around John Casey as well. So in that exchange, dropped Casey now back into, I believe that would be 6th in the AM category.
Correct, yes. That is 6th in class, and that is also P26 overall as it stands at the moment. Casey Metzger, Brent Bavata, still there or thereabouts. It's the sort of calm before the storm, I think, at the moment. There's nothing really going on between the both of them. The gap's about 4.5 tenths. It will most probably stay there, I would imagine. At least for the foreseeable future. You think, bear in mind, these two are teammates. They're running P1 and P2. They're pulling away a little bit from James Costa in the Mercedes in P3. If they can just continue to push forward, they're teammates. Why would they not? That could not be the case, but I would imagine it would be. Eric Kalaga, oh no, has had a moment. Where is Eric Kalaga? And I think it may have actually just been him going a little bit slower. No damage immediately. I tell you what, there is damage because he's missing his rear perspex. He's missing the rear perspex. This is the wrong replay. Here it is coming up now. Okay, so it seems to have happened earlier than that.
Earlier. Yeah, that's making the run down towards the heel of the boot. It looks like he was already off the throttle, letting cars by. And Eric Kulaga, by the way, just now gets his car into the pit lane. So he was able to limp it around. We'll see what kind of shape that car is in when it comes back out. As we jump back now over, let's see, this is Lyndon Lee and Wilson Brewer. And this is the battle for fourth in the, I believe, in the Pro-Am category. Ooh, quick little move there across the nose going into the inner loop as the number 69 machine holds the position there. And, this is always a challenge here coming out of the bus stop to be able to set up, to be able to carry speed through that outer loop section without basically just pushing your left front tire to its limits. You get a lot of understeer there before the car hooks back up, going down into the laces of the boot. But it looks like Lyndon Lee currently has the measure of Mr. Brewer.
Absolutely. At this stage, the race, again, Brewer is looking like he is on the front foot. He's really trying to make a move. I can't make one at the moment, admittedly, but I still think he is realistically in control of what will happen in the next 3 or 4 laps. Because realistically, have a think about this, is as long as Brewer is pushing Lyndon Lee to really drive the car and to push the car harder, it's all time he's taken out of his... He's using up more fuel for one. He's using up more of his tyres as well.
Yes.
So, again, realistically, that's not going to make too much of a difference now. Wilson Brewer into the pits, interestingly enough. I didn't realise that. I knew a few people had come in. I wonder possibly if Wilson is trying to jump in and break the toe a little bit. So he's going to try and get the undercut. This will be. So we'll have to see as Wilson Brewer does now come into the pits. Katie Metzger obviously is still leading. Brett Bavart, obviously these people, they don't necessarily, if you're at the front, you don't need to pit early. You don't really want to do any alternate strategy. Instead, you want to just stay out as long as you possibly can. But, I mean, credit to...
Well, I was going to say, assuming that you have a nice gap ahead of you that you don't necessarily have, you don't have a car ahead of you that might be holding your pace up as we watch, it looks like Metzger get by one of the slower cars on track, got really dispatched with him pretty quickly there. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, you certainly want to, at this point, be able to guard against the overcut. You'd certainly want to, here, as we have our drivers have to worry about 2 pit stops this evening. Certainly you gotta worry about your fuel savings, of course, and of course, if you're driving all by yourself and you don't have somebody pulling you down, I guess it's a balance there. You don't want to be behind somebody who can't keep up with your pace, but you want them to be able to tow you around the track here.
Absolutely right. Heslitsky and Volt. Gap is around about half a second. We're seeing lots of different battling going on. Or, to be fair, I should say, we're seeing a few cars that are quite close together. There's nothing major in terms of battling at the moment. So everyone's now starting to settle into a rhythm. Just think, we're already half an hour into this race. And then we've only got 45 minutes remaining. So, everyone's now starting to get into their rhythm. Everyone's starting to get into a bit of a groove. You'll find that you may have periods of time where people are working together as a possibility. You may also have times where, drivers aren't working together. It's really a little bit of sort of damage limitation, especially if you're a little bit further at the back. That's the key thing here is there are always points up for grabs. As long as you're, finishing, as long as you're running, anything can happen. So, consistency. Talk about this all the time. It's not just in racing that's the consistent part in terms of out and out right lap time, but also in everything else as well. If you're consistently within the points, if you're consistently, even if you have a slightly poor race that you're not 100% happy with, if you're still able to score some points, you are still taking away points off of other people. Okay, it's such a key thing. But again, calm before the storm at this moment in time will then start to pick up. We are seeing the GT3s, or the first round of the GT3 pit stops really, the AM category drivers really starting to come into the pits now. Quite a lot of them, actually, to be fair. PJ Sturgio's leader of the pro category now comes into the pits. That then puts Sean Campbell up into the provisional lead. And have a look at this. Sean Campbell, Dave Menino, Justin Brunner, all currently in McLaren. So it's a repeat of Monza, isn't it, at the moment, as it turns out?
I was going to say it was a repeat of Monza. Now, what we saw when we with a couple of the other classes, for example, in the Pro-Am category at Spa, we saw that the Lamborghini was the chassis to have. Two of the top three podium finishers were in the Lamborghinis. Of course, at Spa, in the pro category, we based on Sturgios's issues, we did have a McLaren take the win with a BMW and a Mercedes finishing second and third. Also, should note there that when Sturgios came in, we also had Schreiber come into the pit lane as well, and looked like Sturgios got out just ahead of Alex Schreiber by spent just a little bit less time, about 0.3 of a second, 0.4 of a second less on the pit lane.
Well, exactly what you want, isn't it, to be fair? What I am noticing as well, actually, to be fair, is Schreiber's his actual pit stop time was 21.90 seconds. That was how long he was actually stopped in the pits for. BJ Sturgios' car, 16.35 was the time he spent actually in the pit stationary. So quite a sizable difference there, which is interesting enough. I wonder why that is. It can't be tyres because that would add another good 20 seconds onto the car. Either way, not the end of the world. Yeah, I'm just having a look. I'm just trying to see where these battles are going to form. Obviously, we know this is one. This is actually quite a big one, actually, by the looks.
Yeah, this is very good right now with Lyndon Lee, with Wilson Brewer, and is that Fabien Massey, I think, in the Porsche, sitting at the tail end of that little battle there as they start to come up through the inner loop, and the Audi making very good ground there. It looked like it got a very good run into the toe of the boot there, was able to carry good speed. And you can see here as we're on board with Lee, he ended up dropping back. And actually, I guess it was Frederick Lavoie that was the Audi up ahead. That Lavoie made that good run. And we can kind of peek over the roller bar there as they come around.
Such a rubbish camera angle.
Yeah, that's right. Gonna have to talk to him about getting that thing readjusted. But good battle going on there, up towards the top of the top half of the Pro-Am category.
So yes, Mark Scott up ahead. He's got two cars, or between himself and then Travis Kepler, who is currently on your screen now. P2 in the AM category. There are two Pro-Am cars separating both Mark Scott and Travis Kepler. Great, exactly what Mark Scott needs. He needs that 100%. If he doesn't have it, it's going to be a little bit more tricky to then break the toe. I know he's obviously got the gap as well, so Mark Scott really, really pushing forward as hard as he possibly can. As it stands, though, no one can really touch him at this moment in time. Like Travis Kepler currently is around about 16 seconds away. 16 seconds away. Is a fair few hours up the road, so might not be able to make that trip. But again, yeah. Who knows?
No, and we were watching that battle a little bit earlier, and Massey ended up taking his car into the pit lane. He has completed his first pit stop of the evening, and he's going to rejoin 23rd overall. And in the Pro-Am category, looks like that's going to put him towards the tail end of the field. Going to put him in 11th in the Pro-Am.
11th in the Pro-Am indeed. I'm just having a look. Apologies as well. We were told that it's not Lyndon, it's Leiden. So I do apologise. So Leiden Lee, yes, not Lyndon Lee. You're absolutely correct. So number 69 Porsche, currently in P6, making up 12th position. So cracking stuff there. So Leiden, apologies. We've got that all sorted now from the Verve Racing Team Mint car. And
apparently the team's mascot there is growling at our many
yes,
times
exactly.
butchering Leiden's name there. So again, apologies. We either have dogs or we have cows. I guess that's how it plays out. All right, as we go back to the action here right now, and we've got Jerry Forkolb. In addition to Forkolb, right back behind him, we've got looks like we've got Volz and we've got John Casey all in a row there in the this is the battle for 7th right now in the AM category. And things have stretched out just a little bit as they come down the sole of the boot and head over into turn 8. There's it looks like Casey's starting to pick up a little bit of ground there on the Volts machine.
Yeah, I'm noticing that as well. The gap is currently 7/10. We're going to have to keep an eye on it and see how it goes. Looking at sector times, I wonder again if there are. Well, we've seen there as well. So Vols is actually he's pulling a fair chunk of time. So at this moment in time, John Casey, he's not catching up that position. Instead, he's actually dropping back, unfortunately.
Yeah,
not over yet, though.
I was going to say, and I think that might have been Volts' outlap actually. The previous lap he had shown as a 2:22, and so might have spent a little bit of time on the pit lane there. We'll see how things equalize now, as Casey had been about 25 seconds faster the previous lap.
Right, I see. So that will be why.
And we have contact on the back straight here.
Oh my goodness, what an accident that was. That was enormous. I think we've got a car, possibly. Who was that? It wasn't Nathan Olsen. Well, I think it was Andrew Hewitt. No. Andrew Hewitt was one of the cars that were involved. Let's see if we can have.
We've got one of the Lamborghinis that had come down past us, heading down towards the inner loop. Let's take a look here. A lot of issues there as we had contact coming out of turn 1. Lost a couple of cars there on the entrance to the S's.
Oh, it was Nathan Olsen.
That was Nathan Olsen in the number 39 machine. Went spinning off, coming out of the S's and onto the short back straight here. It looks like he lost the rear end of the car. Daniel, before he came out of the S's, you saw the rear end go around. I'm not exactly sure what the issue was with the two trailing cars that went off there, but Olsen definitely had the issue. Let's see, did he get a tap?
There was a car, it looked like a Porsche. I can't quite see who that was, but it seemed to be. Let's have a quick look, see if we can see it in the blimp cam. Actually, that's not going to be. That's way too far away, unfortunately.
Well, here is John Casey. As it comes to us. Yeah, that's John Casey. In the number 78 Porsche.
I wonder if we would just have a look at that once more time. So John Casey and Nathan Olsen, have a quick look. You see, now it doesn't look like John Casey was actually pulling over the car. I think it might just be a mixture again. Two cars not fitting into one space on the circuit by the looks of it. So yeah, it's a bit not ideal. Not ideal from both those drivers. John Casey and Nathan Olsen, they're both in the pits as it stands now, and I really don't know when they're going to be able to get going. That was a hefty shunt. So we'll just have to see if they can get the car back out on circuit. Fantastic. If not, I mean that's going to be an absolute eternity to wait, unfortunately.
Oh, unfortunately, yes. All right, so we're on board right now with Casey Metzger. At least we were a moment ago. Metzger leading the Pro-Am category, had Brent Bravata in the number 11 machine right back behind him, as those two teammates there still continue to set the pace for the Pro-Am. And James Costa, though, in that number 68 machine, you can see he's starting to close things down not just a little bit, but he made up quite a bit of ground the last time we checked in.
Yeah, let's not. We need to keep James. Excuse me. We need to keep James Costa in our eye, because, as you say, he's pulled that gap down a little bit. We just need to see how much he's able to pull that gap down and continue to pull it down. That's the key thing. Jason Bridges has had a moment. I wonder what happened here. Let's see if we can get a replay of this. It's going through down into the bus stop chicane. I mean, if there's ever a place we don't want to go, that is definitely it. But, I do not want to know how close that was. Manages, it actually got a good view of seeing what's actually coming his way. He does wait, though. Fair play to him. Waits there for a few more seconds, spins it around, and then off he goes. Yes, quite a significant time loss for him. However, he did not get anyone else involved. He allowed everyone to go through, and then he picked up the position. So very, very wise and very, very respectful thing to do there. You see a lot of people, what they'll do is they will just throw themselves into that mess, catching a mess fence, and then... yeah, it's just James Costa now currently... actually, you know what? I think he's dropping away a bit. He's dropped a little bit of time. He's dropped, 3/4 of a second?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the previous lap, he had run very similar lap times within a couple thousandths of a second of Brent Bravata, but that last time by about 4/10 off the pace of the two Lamborghinis up ahead. And now look at this as the two teammates go for a moment there. It looked like they were going to go side by side into the bus stop. They've decided to hold station there as Metzger continues to lead Bravata now down and through the outer loop there. Costa it continues to lose a little bit of time, just a little bit over a second back from them. But the two Lamborghinis looks like it may be go time, as we are just a little bit under halfway through this 75-minute battle, as the clock is just about to hit 40 minutes.
Pretty close. Do you know what? I wonder how team orders are going to fare here. Even are team orders actually going to fare here? That's the other thing. I know that they're obviously running the same twisted cars, but they may just be, again, helping each other out at this point in time, and then come the end of the race, if they've got a little bit more time in hand, then they can maybe start battling. Because at the moment, as soon as these two start battling, you're then going to have James Costa that's going to be right on the back bumper. So, you know, at this point, yeah, I probably wouldn't be battling, I don't think, at this point. There's really no point. The only thing you are going to do successfully is just slow yourselves down.
That's absolutely correct. I mean, we saw that early on in the race when Sturgios, who was sitting back behind Sean Campbell and Alex Trieber. Oh, as we have another issue, and this is the number 61 Audi. That is Ryan Kaprowski. He impacted the wall there, and let's see. I think that's probably going to put Kaprowski into the pits, given the size of that hit. Let's take a look where he may have ended up.
Jackson, whoa, Jackson Starrett, that was, how on earth that was avoided, I will never, ever know. And to be fair, I couldn't quite see who that was. It all happened so fast, I couldn't actually see who that was. But, I mean, Jackson Starrett, there's really, you know, in a way, it's a bit difficult for him to have done anything else, to be perfectly honest. He had to get out on track, he had to get back on the circuit at some point. It just happened to be that there was a very, very fast Lamborghini. And I wonder who that was, and it was John Cooper.
Yeah, and you know, and again, coming out of that turn 10, very, very, given the speed that you carry through there, there's not a lot of time to react, and yeah, I'm absolutely amazed that he was able to go and get around that Porsche without putting his own car into the wall. Now you notice there that Starrett, and we saw Starrett earlier. He's had some issues with the car. I believe he's currently running 2 laps down. So you know, certainly the car isn't optimal there, and I'm sure he's doing the best he can. But again, he held station there until he had ground. And you know, we saw that with that spin at the bus stop a little bit earlier. This is something that the stewards have spoken to the drivers about, primarily coming out of our very first round at Daytona, that they wanted to make sure that the drivers know that if they do go around, rather than just pulling right back out in the traffic and perhaps causing more issues on a very tight track like Watkins Glen, to simply watch that relative screen, pull out when it's safe, so that we don't cause more incidents. And so Starrett did a reasonably good job there. He held station. He just happened to be in a bad place where he was.
Yeah, like you said, you know, you got to come out on track, you know, back on track at some point. It just happened to be, unfortunately, that it was a little bit too close for comfort. But no harm, no foul, because there was no real damage done. PJ Sturgios currently still leading the way in the pro category. You can see on your screen now in the number 57 Inex Racing green BMW. He has got what seems to be an 8.8 second gap away from his closest rival, Sean Campbell, in second place. Just further behind that is Dave Menino, and then Alex Trieber is in P4 with Justin Brunner only about 8/10 behind. That's your top 5 in the pro category. PJ Sturgios has got some insane amount of pace at the moment.
Yeah, he absolutely does. Now, last week at Spa, you know, of course, there was obviously an issue with the restart, but we saw at the very start of the race how he made up. I think he started 8th, and he'd made up almost those entire 8 positions just on the first lap. You know, he definitely has pace around these circuits. He's he's got a very well set up car here, and you know, as you mentioned, he's opened up now almost an 8-second advantage advantage over Sean Campbell, with Meneno, I think, another 5 seconds or so back from there. So things starting to spread out at the top end of the field.
Indeed. Let's just making one thing clear as well, though, is these drivers are very, very fast. Like the pro category is a very, very fast category.
Yes.
And PJ Sergio, like I said, has got an 8.5 second gap. Absolute madness. It's actually more than that now. It's 8.8 seconds, so it continues to go up. Justin Brunner and Alex Treba are having a bit of a battle. McLaren versus Mercedes once again. Who is it going to be? Last of the late breakers going through down. Nothing as of yet, although it's getting closer and closer and closer. Here is now running on board with Justin Brunner in the number 2 Inex Racing McLaren. But you know, the McLaren's good on the brakes. McLaren is good on the brakes. It always has been good on those braking, on the main heavy braking zones. Mercedes is still quite good on the brakes, but it's just that seems to be a little bit heavier. Just doesn't stop quite as nicely. Justin Brunner bunches out, tries to get the move, can't quite. Actually, do you know what? Alex Treba,
wow,
he sort of dummied him into that mistake there. And Alex Brunner, actually, he didn't need to. He could have just come across, because Brunner was never going to make that move in a million years. But Treba actually just pulled out and let him have the position.
Exactly, just opened the door for him. Now, you mentioned how good the McLarens are on the brakes. Obviously, the longer wheelbase that we have with the Mercedes, perhaps a little bit better suited to the long sweeping corners that we have here. We don't have the real tight chicanes like we saw over at Spa here, but certainly the McLaren, I don't think you're going to run into some of the other limitations that you have at some of the other tracks. Of course, we saw at Daytona where it was gear limited, actually ran out of gear up at the top. That's certainly not going to be an issue here, and so a very nimble machine there as Brunner making a good run. All right, as we jump back now to Cooper, who is currently running I believe 9th in the Pro-Am category. And they're in the number 18 Turnburn Moto Lamborghini, all by himself at the moment. He's got a bit of a gap up to. He's got Mark Scott up ahead of him. Scott currently running, I believe. Scott is the leader in the Am category, just ahead, and Mark Sigelkow just a little bit further back. Sigelkow battling it out for position with Cooper, but is about looks to be about almost 10 seconds back from that Lamborghini.
Yeah, 10 seconds. I mean, it's a good chunk of time. It's definitely not impossible to make up, but it's going to have to be a very, very impressive drive for the remainder of the race to catch that position up. The two closest battles we've actually got, one of the battles that I would like to have a quick look at is Kyle Hertzlitsky and Brian Vols. This battle here is around about 4/10 of a second. It goes anywhere from, to be fair, from 4/10 all the way to about half a second. They're just sort of finding each other's feet at the moment. They're still not quite sure where to really push and where to really go. They, again, maybe both be buying some time here. Kyle Hertzlitsky has it. He's on the front foot because he's got the opportunity to fuel save a lot more than Brian Vols has. So there may not be a move in. We were actually looking at this earlier on with the Race Anywhere World Series. I initially thought it was just going to be a slipstream fest, and people were just going to try and save as much fuel as they possibly could and not worry about anything else at all. Instead, slightly different than that. They're again, it's too early to call, even with this sort of like half hour left to go. So we are well on our way to over halfway. There's only half hour left to go now. Well, less than a half hour, in fact. I'm staggered at how quickly this.
It's been going very, very quickly here at Watkins Glen, and I think a lot of it is, frankly, Daniel, we've got a lot of drivers that are a number of laps down that had early incidents, brought their cars into the pit lane. Some of them have retired for the evening. Some of them are still sitting in the pit lane. But for all intents and purposes, about 30 cars, give or take, on track right now. Maybe actually about 38 cars on track. But it has opened things up quite a bit more here at the 3.4 mile circuit. All right, as we're on board right now with this is Whitmoyer, Jonathan Whitmoyer. He is currently running 31st overall. Oh, okay, we moved up to Volts. Actually, I was looking at Whitmoyer, who was a lap down. All right, so we're on board with Volts, and just a little bit behind him. We've got Matthew Plaisance. Of course, Plaisance was not here for round one. Was getting the personal life in order after Hurricane Ida ran through his neck of the woods down in Louisiana, but put on a very strong show last week at Spa. And Plaisance currently running ninth in the AM category.
Indeed, a very respectable position as it stands at the moment, and 0.4 of a second, really. Like I said, it hovers anywhere from 0.3 of a second to 0.4 of a second, back down to 0.3 of a second, up to half a second. Really don't know. Second pit stops are going to have an effect here because, this is where we now have Wilson Brewer is actually the first person to go in for his second pit stop, so he is the start of this. We are going to see people probably, I'd imagine, come in within the next sort of the next sort of 2 laps. Then we're going to really see everyone start to come into the pits now. As it stands, only Wilson Brewer is the only person currently in the pits who is on the lead lap. It's actually one of the only people that are in the pits full stop, period. We may see a couple more people respond to this. We might not. It does depend. A couple of people that I'm sure we wanted to go right to the very end is PJ Sturgis, because he's currently setting a personal best, the 146.04. That was actually the session best as well, the entire best in the race out of every single person so far. But again, still got a bit of way to go.
Yeah, and so, this battle going on right now between Plaisance and Volts, really, really strong. Now, Plaisance, I said he had a great week last week at Spa. He actually finished third in the AM category. Brian Volts did not race last week, so a bit of an unknown, and I don't think he was with us at Daytona either. So we'll see here how this continues to play out. Again, this is the battle for 8th in the AM category. And they've got a little bit of breathing room there to go at it without having to worry about I guess the next driver up the road, and you can see there he is about 11 seconds up the road is Herlitsky.
That gap, realistically, it's going to be tough for it to come down, to be perfectly fair.
Yeah, agreed.
We know that these battles, we know that everyone is nice and close. We know that the field is very, very close as well. If you were looking at the pace that everyone has, obviously we don't have qualifying to look at, but instead we just know from experience how quick that these drivers can be and how close the field is. Which is why we were actually talking about this again in the Race Anywhere World Series. The first run was at Daytona, and as we know, Daytona is a slipstream fest. You've got to be so on the ball, to be fair, because any small mistake, and as we've seen, yes, the gaps are starting to open up a little bit, but any mistake, and you're in the public, you've got to be, that's 2-3 positions lost if you're lucky. Recently just head down, crack on, not too long left of the race. It starts to also change as well now. Now that we've got the bulk of the race out of the way, you will start to see, and after the second pit stops as well, you will start to see a little bit more, I suppose, risk-taking is the best way to put it. I think it's probably the best way to describe that, because people will now have, the one person that I feel may be willing to push the car a bit more now is James Costa. Because that gap is coming down ever so slightly. Yeah,
it certainly is. And we might want to check. It looks like we were watching that battle between Volts and Plaisance for a while. And as they came out of the bus stop, I was just about to mention that Plaisance seemed to really have the measure of Volts coming out of turn 1 up through the S's and in the bus stop. And then almost immediately after that, we saw Plaisance drop back a couple of positions, and so there might have been an issue, and I'm actually showing him now as being a lap down, so he may have had an impact there. We may have to check that as we do jump back up to the leaders in the Pro-Am category, and those are the two teammates. We've got the two Lamborghinis of Metzger and Bravada. There, nose to tail, and as you mentioned, Costa starting to close things back down a little bit. I think the last time we checked in with him, Daniel, he was about a second and a half back. He's closed that down now, as you can see, to about a half a second. And as both of the Lamborghinis are starting to come up on some slower traffic, some cars that have had some incidents. I think that's definitely going to give Costa the opportunity to bring the fight to the two teammates.
100%, 100%, not long left to go, and then we're going to find out. We do have, as it stands, 20 minutes. Nearest makes no difference. 20 minutes that will be remaining. And again, the battles, they're starting to close up ever so slightly. We are seeing Fabian Massad actually just making some moves through in the Pro-Am category, making some moves on the Am category, so no on-track battling happening there. Realistically, I think the three of the main ones that we're actually going to see, I wonder what's happening between Casey Metzger, Brent Bovada. Brent Bovada going to go around the outside, actually, apologies, the inside. Very, very brave indeed. They're still side by side. Still side by side. Casey Metzger holds it around the outside now. I wonder if they got team orders and then released, and that's it. They're now able to race. Just got to be careful, chaps. We don't want anything to happen, especially with 20 minutes left to go. Casey Metzger, he's only about 3/10 up the road as well, and then James Costa is getting involved as well. Exactly, you called it quite a while back there, Greg. Is apologies for the small, the slightly useless camera angle, but yes, Ed, you were saying that the, some
as soon as those two
Lamborghinis
would exactly, and there you go. All they had to do was be side by side for 3 corners, and Costa now is right up into the battle. As of course we had Metzger finally looked like he had. It looked like he and Bravada might have had about enough, and there you go. Now Costa, he's going to probably be the odd man out going in from the outside. He's going to have to slot back behind the 2 Lamborghinis as they now come back out of the bus stop and go through the outer loop. You typically, going into the bus stop there, want to have the car all the way down to the inside. It gives you a little bit of breathing room there. And Costa, basically was just the odd man out. But you can see now, I think he has come to the realization that he is right up in the draft, and you can see he's now starting the pressure. He's going to go down the inside, going into 7, cannot get it done. He's going to follow the Lamborghini of Bravada up through and into the heel of the boot as they make the way down to turn 5. And look at this now as the Mercedes pops down to driver's left and under braking going into turn 8. That Lamborghini, he's definitely going to have the more nimble car coming through that heavily banked turn, but the Mercedes not giving up the battle yet.
No, very true. Yeah, the mid-engine cars do tend to have a nice bit of rotation. But, it depends what you want, though. That's why, again, I love GT racing, because you can have any car pretty much, realistically, and they will build one for you. Run, you can find them.
All right, so heading down into the pits now, Brent Bravada in the number 11 Lamborghini. He's going to be going in for his second pit stop. So that is going to leave Metzger alone to battle with Costa right now. Metzger has about an 8-car length advantage. Margin right now is just about a 1.5 seconds. So Costa probably just a little bit out of the draft right now as they come up through the S's. But yeah, we'll see. Trying to track down who that is right behind him. I think it's obviously one of the Audis. I think that's an out-of-class car, actually. That may be a lap down.
Which one was this? Sorry, Greg. Just have a quick
look.
I
was looking at the Audi that's right behind. James Costa.
I see. Yes, and you know what? That is Ryan Kaprowski from the Rocket Racing Gold, who is currently sitting in, he's P8 in the Pro category, and he's currently P24 overall, having lost, unfortunately, 17 positions out of everyone. So not the ideal race, definitely not the race that he would have wanted. Again, there will be some points up for grabs, actually still finishing the race does give you a good opportunity, and it does give you some points nevertheless, because, again, you never know, do you, Greg? You never know when these points are going to be coming in handy, especially towards the latter half of the race. Or the latter half of the season, sorry. Of
the season, exactly, yes. All right, so now you can see now this the last lap here, Costa running, I believe, a 1:48.7, almost 9/10 of a second off of the Lamborghini of Metzger. So when Metzger needed to put his head down and run a quick lap there, knowing that he has not brought his car in for a second pit stop yet, he was able to do it. And it looks like his teammate not all that much further back on track currently either. But Costa now, and did we just see Metzger go into the pits? Yes, we did. So Casey Metzger pits from the lead of the Pro-Am category. That is going to move James Costa now, running 7th overall, up into the lead for the moment. Costa, the only one of what were our top 3 drivers that has not gone in for his second pit stop, as we have just about 15 minutes remaining.
15 minutes remaining, and we're not seeing that many people come into the pits as of yet. It's going to be a man splash and dash. So you're also going to see the pits just fill with cars as everyone tries to get their splash and dash that they need in. This is going to have a big test of how much fuel you've saved. If you've saved more fuel, you're then going to have to put less in the car. If you haven't saved the fuel, actually you're going to have to put more, so you're going to be slower. Again, you're just... Harley Hornton, actually, again, in the Race Anywhere World Series, absolutely fantastic. He took us through a course. It was amazing. Very, very... yeah, so that is absolutely fantastic stuff. Having a look up and down, do you know what? I'm just a little bit... Harry Wheels currently... Right, I think, do you know what? Everyone's now starting to go into the pits. Alex Treber is now going to the pits.
Just went in.
Yeah,
so we're it's time, exactly. As Treber pits now from 3rd. That's going to move Harry Wills up into 3rd. PJ Sturgios, who has already taken his second pit stop, he now cycles up to 4th. And Sean Campbell, Justin Brunner, and Harry Wills, all ahead of him, have not taken their second pit stops as of yet. And now it looks like James Costa is pitting in from the lead. There you go. There's the purple Mercedes coming down the pit lane. So he pits from the lead in the Pro-Am category, and we'll have to see where he comes out on track and whether or not he can make up some ground on Metzger and Bravata.
Yep, as you say, we're going to have to see. There is Casey Metzger. He's going through the last corner now. I don't know. James Costa's still in the pits. He's just gone out of the pits. You can just see he's on... you'll be able to see on the timing screen. He is just coming out. Where is it going to be? Casey Metzger is just gone across there now. So, unfortunately... Brent Bravada's also got by as well, so that's a big shame. Actually, do you know what? He's not got up by that much. So James Costa's only about 3/10 behind Brent Bravada. So this battle is really going to kick off now. And do you know what, James Costa? He's going to have to push quickly. He's going to have to drive and really put some pressure on the back of Bravada and capitalise on this. Because this is a very good opportunity that he's got. There he is. So Bravata goes to the inside. They've got James Costa going to go round the outside the long way round. Never going to work in a million years, unfortunately. Gave it a good go, though. But especially when you've got colder tyres than someone like Bravata, who has been running just a little bit longer than you. It's tricky. It is tricky. I've never seen something like that happen in terms of that particular move when there's cold tyres involved. It's a very rare move, especially because they were both going at a feral lick going into the bus stop. So, again, luckily, they both almost decided that it wasn't right for them, and they both just went around. Did lose a bit of time from each other, but ultimately, nothing too major.
Yeah, and I think the big thing there is Metzger made up as of course both he and Bravata have been on track for a couple of laps now, but Metzger opening up over a 1.5-second margin at one point. Quick note here: it looks like Campbell, Brunner, Meneno have all gone into the pits. And they've actually come back out. So that moves PJ Sturgios now back up to the overall lead. Campbell running 2nd, Brunner running in 3rd, Meneno 4th, Wills 5th. And the odd man out, Alex Treber, who had been running at the front of the field, he is now sitting back in 6th position.
So running in 6th position. Apologies, it would help if I was talking without my mic muted, wouldn't it? But we are back, ready to go. Harry Wills is actually there's a bit of a battle going on between Harry Wills and Alex Treber.
There we go.
Let's just have a small quick look. This is Harry Wills. Treber's just behind, so Mercedes versus Mercedes. Sean Ryan is about 20 seconds behind. So there's a good bit of gap there. So realistically, they're not going to have to worry about anyone behind. So if anything, this plays very nicely into the hands of Treber, because with just over 10 minutes to go, a position could very well be made here. It's going to have to be timed very well. It's going to have to be timed perfectly, in fact. But we'll have to see how it goes. I am very intrigued to look at that pace and to keep an eye on that as we go. So we'll have to see how that develops. A little bit further down, though, just running through a couple of people as well. We're just going to run through some of the AM drivers. Drew Neubauer, currently in P13 overall. Definitely
13.
not a race that he would have wanted, to be perfectly honest. It's a shame, isn't it? Because there have been a lot of drivers here that have deserved more than what has happened to them. And there's some very, very quick drivers in. It's a bit of a shame, especially for the race to end so early. For some people in turn one, or sorry, in the first lap even.
In the first lap, yeah, absolutely. And again, we saw the exact same thing last week at Spa. That looked like a good portion of the Pro-Am field had gotten caught up coming out of Eau Rouge on the very first lap, and wreaked havoc on that particular class. As we're on board right now with Neubauer, I believe.
Yep. That is correct. That is indeed correct.
And Neubauer, Drew Neubauer, currently running 13th in the AM category, 33rd overall. He's been one driver who's made up. He's been a lucky recipient of some of the misfortune of some of those other drivers. He's picked up 7 spots since the start of the race. But as we mentioned, he is currently running 13th in the AM category. But so far. Looks to be a good race for him, and I think he is still. He hasn't lost, I think, any laps in the pits there. He just has been a little bit off the pace.
Yeah, it sort of ebbs and flows, doesn't it? You tend to see that people will have sort of periods of time where they're on pace. It depends on a lot of things. That you got set up as well, their natural driving style, track conditions obviously have a big part into it, and adapting. Adapting probably one of the biggest ones, to be perfectly honest. If you're able to adapt, then you naturally can cope with most things. If there are a few little subtle differences you need, it just takes more time. I think that's the biggest thing as well. It just takes some time to adjust to it.
Absolutely, and again, we said this up at the top of the show. The way that many of these corners are graded, they promote speed. They'll carry you through if you can get on the line. If you turn in just a smidge too late, if you miss the apex by half a foot, you're going to end up fighting first understeer going into the corner and then oversteer coming out of the corner. Speaking of oversteer out of the corner, and this is over at turn 9, they're again one of the most difficult corners. It's very difficult to sight that corner. That was that Neubauer who went around, I believe it was, and he gets the car back underway.
Indeed, he will do. One of the closer battles at this moment in time. In fact, one of the only real sort of battles that we currently have at the moment. Again, the car before the storm, Metzger and Bravata. This battle is still going on. It's there or thereabouts. And it's been like this for a while. And it's going to probably continue to go like this for the remainder of the race. It just depends what you need. You need a bit of a breakaway from someone. You need, whether that's going to be Bravata that has a small little moment and then the gap extends, or it's Metzger that has a bit of a small little wiggle possibly, and then Bravata will be able to catch up. Actually, I'm saying that the gap's only about 0.2 of a second now. This is what I mean. It sort of ebbs and flows, doesn't it? It goes down to 0.2, and it will come up to 0.3. It's good, actually. It's a really good indicator to see where people are stronger than the people that they are racing against. It's very, very interesting to see. Like through there as well, Bravata just lost a fraction of a second, only about 0.5. Okay, it's not a lot at all, but it's enough that every now and again those small little bits of time loss, they will add up massively.
Yeah, and you saw that there. That the bottom section, the boot section of the course, Metzger, I don't think has the same pace that Bravata has there. I think Bravata is maybe a little bit stronger on the bottom half of the course. Bravata got called out just a little bit. He was later on the brakes, trying to make up some ground going into turn 8, and ended up having to ride the brakes around the corner probably a little bit longer than he wanted to, as Metzger wasn't back on the throttle coming out of there. And again, you slow in, fast out, and unfortunately, Bravada had to adjust there for Metzger. Now the big thing here is we watch them go down to the bus stop with Metzger to the inside, Bravada to the outside, and you see once again Bravada getting very late on the brakes and just misses the rear end of Metzger as they come out of the bus stop. I was just going to say that James Costa, he has dropped back considerably. He had dropped back almost a second and a half back. You'll notice as these two drivers, though, start to battle it out again. They don't even have to be side by side, but as long as they're challenging themselves in the corners, Costa had dropped things down coming out of the bus stop, and that's where Costa seems to be very strong now, is the two leaders side by side coming out of turn 7, making their way down the sole of the boot, heading down towards turn 8. And let's see here now as they go under braking, and we're going to see who is stronger under the brakes there. As Bravada, he's got the nose up on Casey Metzger, and though Metzger, he's got preferred line going into turn 9. You can see there where Bravada opens things up just a little bit. And they get a little loose. They touch coming out of turn 9, and we saw Casey Metzger have to take a little bit of evasive action. He just kept it off the wall, driver's left, and now we've got Bravada. He's got a nose up, and he manages to get around Casey Metzger as they come through the final corner. Now with just 5 minutes remaining here in our 75-minute battle, and I was saying that Costa, who's very strong on this section of the course, coming out of turn 1 up through the S's, going in and through the bus stop, he has eliminated what was a 1.5 second gap up to the two Lamborghinis. It is now only 0.3 of a second.
Indeed, and that 0.3 of a second, I tell you what, it might even be, it's going to be a hell of a lot less now because they're going to go 3 wide possibly. You got Metzger, Bravo, Costa. Oh my goodness, whoa, never going to work. Oh, I tell you what, I thought they were going to touch again then. That was just a small little tap, and unfortunately, managed to all get through. The person that got out of unscathed on that was actually Brent Bravata. But that was close between Costa and Metzger. My goodness, that was close.
Exactly. Yeah, very close on the exit there. But we had the two Lamborghinis get together going into the bus stop, and Costa, who was sitting back behind the two Lamborghinis, probably in the best spot. He had to thread the needle, but he did manage, as you can see there, to get around Casey Metzger. So Metzger, who was leading the Pro-Am category just a lap ago, he now drops back to 3rd. And Costa is he's firmly in the draft of Brent Bravata right now, only about 0.3 behind. But again, this section of the course right here is where the Lamborghini seems to show its strength. We'll have to see what that Mercedes can do when it comes back around on the top half of the course, coming up out of the S's, where Costa seems to have a bit more pace than the two Lamborghinis. But you can also see now that Metzger has dropped off considerably after that little run. I don't know if it's done some damage to the car there, but he's fallen now almost 3 seconds back from Bravada and Costa.
Yeah, it might have done a little bit of damage, as you were saying. It might just be some like small little aero damage, which is actually doing a surprising amount of pace loss. Again, it could be really very much anything as it stands. But coming into the final closing stages of this race, again, this is one of the closest battles that we currently have out on circuit. You've also got Travis Kepler and Errol. Errol is currently sitting in number 13, currently sitting in P3, only 0.7 behind Travis Kepler in 2nd place. It's a tall order. Definitely not impossible, though. It's definitely not in the realms of impossibility to be able to make that 0.7 up. But you've got to be committed. Committed is being, it's such a key thing, especially when trying to, give yourself a little bit of confidence there. Battles starting to open up a little bit. Brent Bravata, obviously James Costa, that is still going on. We've got this one here, Travis Kepler and Errol Urksoy as well. And
this is about and coming out of turn 10, heading to, or probably coming out of 10, going into 11. We get a couple cars that get together over on driver's right, and that causes an issue. Let's see, that is Errol Yerksoy, who we were just speaking about, probably Yerksoy, who we were just talking about a few moments ago, and it must be for him the most painful thing to try and get that car turned around and get back underway. And looks like, Daniel, that he's going to finish his race up from the pit lane. Let's take a look at the replay.
Yeah, I think we've actually got a couple of replays. John Casey had a moment in a similar sort of place. Was this the entire instigator for it? No, it was not. So John Casey just loosened it on his own accord as they're going through the second to last corner, which is a very tricky one. It's a medium speed corner. You've just got to be careful. And then as it went through, then that's when Errol came around. So here it is. Let us see what happens. Again, is it just a bit of rotation, or is it just... I think it's a tap on the grass. I think it's a tap on the grass.
Looks like the right rear wheel got over the curbing, and
no.
he went around. Then he got tapped by, didn't see who that was, in the Porsche that tapped him, and then obviously collateral damage there as well with a third car getting caught up in the incident.
I don't know who that was. I can't quite see who that was. But yeah, that's a big shame for Errol on the number 13. Hopefully he'll be able to get that car and sort of nurse it back. It's still sitting in the pits at this moment in time. So, as you say, he might very well finish up that. His race on the. Well, I mean, realistically as well, we've got the white flag is being waved. Actually, do you know what? I genuinely am absolutely staggered as to how quick this race has gone. This is at the last lap now. This is it.
There we go. All right, so now coming down into the bus stop for the very last time, it is PJ Sturgios in the number 57 Inex Racing Green BMW. We've got Sean Campbell in the number 26 McLaren. He is almost 6 seconds in arrears right now. Then we've got Justin Brunner, Dave Menino, Harry Wills, your top 5 here again for the very last time. If we take a look at Pro-Am right now, looks like Brent Bravada starting to open things up just a little bit on James Costa here with a couple of corners to go as they are now making their way up through the S's for the last time. And then if we take a look at Pro-Am, I think we mentioned here, Mark Scott in the number 67 Scott Racing entry. He's got a lot of breathing room right now over the rest of the AM category. Travis Kepler running second, I believe, is over a second in arrears. But let's head back over to our leader, PJ Sturgios, who should have already crossed the start-finish line. He does. He takes the win. PJ Sturgios in that Inex Racing Green entry. He takes the win. Second time in a row on track. Again, had some issues with the stewards after our round 2, but it looks like Sturgios, he's going to take the win and take the points, more importantly, for the win, finishing second. In the pro category is Sean Campbell with Justin Brunner finishing in third, crossing the stripe now, Dave Menino. Menino about a second back from Brunner, just off the podium. Harry Wills will come home now in 5th position. And then Alex Treber, who for such a long time had been up at the front of the field. He had moved up. He'd started on row number 2, had held the point for about a half of the race. It looks like he finishes now in 5th. And now let's jump back over. This is the battle for the win right now. In the Pro-Am category, we've got Brent Bravada there, the lead machine in the Lamborghini, actually the second in that row. Bravada is going to come home and he is going to take the win in the Pro-Am. James Costa, he is going to finish up 2.1 seconds back, flashing his lights for everyone to see. Then Casey Metzger will come home in 3rd, Lyden Lee 4th. And then still waiting on Frederick Lavoie and Wilson Brewer, who should turn in the top 5. It looks like most of our podium finishers in the Pro-Am category have already crossed the stripe. Again, Mark Scott taking the win. Travis Kepler finishing in 2nd. Michael Fowler finishing in 3rd in the number 54 machine. Kyle Fredrickson finishing in 4th. And then we've got, well, this is how we're going to have to figure this one out. I think Ken Soska in the number 7 entry will come home in 5th.
Cracking racing from all classes we've seen. It's great. To be fair, it wasn't Watkins Glen. I mean, normally it is just a constant non-stop action fest. A good sort of chunk of time as well, though. It was a little bit quiet on track as everyone started to get into their groove. I think we're going to see a bit more of that as well. Then, now that people have started to actually now work out where their opponents are faster, where they're a little bit slower, where they reckon they can gain some time as well. I think we're going to see a bit more of that. But again, we'll have to wait and see. But ultimately, again, just absolutely fantastic racing. Really, really good stuff. It's exactly what we like to see. And the race results will be brought up to you in a few moments' time for the official confirmation. But they will be up in just a few moments' time.
All right, so we do have now sitting in the green room, Daniel. We've got Mark Scott. He was our AM category winner in the number 67 Scott Racing entry. Let's bring him on in. Mark, how are you doing this evening? Mark, do we have you? Oh, I can see Mark talking. I just can't hear him speaking.
Yep, I'm here.
There you are. All right, Mark, congratulations taking the win tonight in the Pro-Am, or probably in the AM category. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your race?
Man, it was a great one. Had lots of fun. I was fortunate, led start to finish. Very clean race. Pit stops went well, avoided some close calls with some lap traffic, but all in all, it was a great race.
Yeah, I was going to say, it looked like rather early on, a lot of the drivers were having some issues with cold tires. We saw a lot of the Pro-Am drivers up ahead of you perhaps have some issues with the pretty blue walls, with the blue Armco. They're going up through the S's and into the bus stop, and you did a great job avoiding them. Absolutely. What was your strategy going into tonight's race? Obviously, starting from the front of the field tonight in the AM category, you had a bit of an advantage there over the rest of the field. But what was your plan coming into this evening?
Well, in practice, the track seemed pretty slick. So right before I went to grid, I changed my rear wing and bumped it up quite a bit and ran a high downforce setup just so I wouldn't be the one kissing the wall the first few laps. I figured keep it on the track and see what happens.
All right. So anybody you'd like to thank tonight as we get ready to roll on to our next round next week, which is going to be back across the pond over at Silverstone?
Yeah, everyone that puts this league together, the broadcasters, Scott Racing, my son Blake. Thanks, guys. It was a lot of fun. Appreciate it.
All right, there you go. Mark Scott, driver of the number 67 Scott Racing Machine, our winner tonight in the AM category. All right, so Daniel, let's go. We're going to bring in now, and looks like let's bring in Michael Fowler. Fowler finished, I believe, third tonight in the AM category in the number 54 entry. Over to you, Daniel.
Indeed. Thank you very much. Greg, are you there? Michael, can you hear us?
Well, I could, but you're kind of cutting out there a little bit. I think it's maybe because I'm replay.
Kind of cutting out. Okay, no worries. Can you? Is that a little bit better?
You sound good now.
There we go. Apologies. Not too sure what happened there. Michael, P3 in the AM category. Great stuff indeed. How was that for you? Talk us through it.
Well, I started mid-pack and was just kind of trying to keep it safe. And I know there at the very beginning, they kind of ran a train on me, and a lot of the guys, the faster guys, ran a train on me. But I ended up getting into a couple guys, got a little bit of damage, but luckily nothing that slowed me down or put me into the pits for repairs. So I think it just kind of came down to perseverance after that, just running steady laps.
Well, absolutely, and perseverance is key. We see that as well. I was actually running a few laps beforehand, and I noticed as well that the cars. I mean, I drove the Lamborghini, similar sort of car. So you're driving the Audi. What did you find about the particular current conditions? I did find that the rear was a little bit sketchy. Were you noticing that throughout the race as well? Did it get better or worse as the race progressed, did you think?
At the start, definitely. It's a little bit loose, and I've been trying all week to kind of get some of that out of there, and did the best I could and made a last-minute change in practice. Raised my wing a little bit just to get a little more control out of it. But as the race went on, it kind of just felt like it tightened up, and it stayed pretty good throughout the rest of the race. I think most of my laps were pretty consistent whenever I wasn't fighting traffic.
Gotcha, I see. Well, again, great insight. We love having insights. Absolutely fantastic stuff. No, really, really good. Well, Michael, before we do let you go, anyone you would like to give a shout out to on the broadcast?
My teammate Errol, he was running third that whole race, and I think he bent it with 2 laps to go, unfortunately, and dropped quite a bit back. And just my family and House Pagel, if they're watching.
Brilliant, fantastic stuff. Well, really appreciate it. Michael, thank you very much for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you in similar circumstances next week.
Thank you.
All right, there you go, Michael Fowler, tonight's second place finisher in the Pro-Am category, and he was mentioning Errol Yerksoy. We'll see if we can get to him. He's sitting in the green room, but before we do, why don't we jump on over to the to the Pro-Am category, and let's start off finishing second tonight in the Pro-Am. Actually, let's see. Do we have Costa? No, we don't. Let's go to our third place finisher. Sorry, everybody. Finishing third in the Pro-Am category, driving the number 3 machine, Casey Metzger. Daniel, over to you.
Brilliant. Casey, can you hear us? How are you doing?
Yeah, I can. I'm doing good. How about you guys?
Good. Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Had a very, very good fun, really, really enjoyable race as always in the RATC. Again, from your perspective as well, just talk us through it. It had a good battle like towards the end, especially it was the the last 15 minutes was getting a little bit dicey going to the bus stop for all 3 of you. Just I'll tell you what, just talk us through that. That from your perspective, because that from outside looked interesting to say the least.
Oh, it was, and really, it was most of the race. Really, me and Brent were nose to tail for the majority of the race, and Brent actually went with a little bit of a higher downforce setup, so it was a little more stable for him. And I knew going down into that bus stop when he was on my inside, I knew if I didn't clear him going back into the bus stop, he was gone, because I was at that point I was just trying to hang on to the car. And so, it didn't really work out the way I wanted, but it's that's racing. So
I mean, it certainly is, but points haul as well. Obviously, that P3 in category, I'm sure is gonna help you as well. It's going to give you some momentum, obviously, going forward into next week's race. From your perspective, then, what's going to be the game plan going in for next week?
Well, I got a lot of points to make up right now, so especially after Daytona, I was running up front most of the time at Daytona, and got involved in that hiccup there, and had the accident last week at Spa. So from here on out, I just gotta get as many points as I can, and have a little bit of luck, maybe have some of the other guys run into some problems going forward to get me back in the fight here. But that's the game plan going forward. Just get as much as I can. So.
Brilliant stuff indeed. Well, before we do let you go, Casey, is there anyone you would like to give a quick shout out to on the broadcast?
Well, yeah, first of all, you guys, and thanks to Harry and Dean for putting on the series. It's a lot of fun, and all you guys do a brilliant job, so thank you so much.
No problem. Well, thank you for participating and coming in to have a quick chat with us. It's a pleasure, and we look forward to catching up with you next week as well.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
All right, there you go. Casey Metzger in the number 3 Team Twisted Lamborghini, finishing second tonight in the Pro-Am category. We're going to bring in his teammate and the winner tonight in the Pro-Am. It's Brent Bravada, driver of the number 11 Lamborghini. Daniel, over to you.
Brent, can you hear us? Are you there?
Yes, sir. I can hear you. How's it going?
Good. Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Not too bad at all. Absolutely fantastic racing again that we've been treated to, which is always fantastic for us. What was it like? What was it like for you? Just talk us through it. Congratulations on the win, but it was interesting at some periods of time in that, I think, to say the least.
Yeah, so majority of the race was just hanging back behind Casey, and so tune-wise, I was running a little bit more rear wing than he was. So behind him I could catch up, but as soon as I got out of that slipstream, I would just hit like a wall basically. So a lot of it was just playing his mistakes, and Casey's a wonderful driver. He really didn't make many mistakes, and making tune wise this whole race, we had a lot of trouble with tire wear and just trying to figure out a good tune. And that's what played out the end. We both had a lot of tire wear, but the downforce carried me through. And and that last incident, we both want the win. And even though we're teammates, we know neither of us were going to back down. And luckily, we didn't both just totally die instantly from that. But very interesting race.
Well, absolutely, as you say, certainly an interesting race, as you were saying. I think realistically, yes, as you said, teammates, absolutely, you've got to be careful that, the golden rule number one is you don't hit your teammate. But at the same time, being able to race again with your teammate is also, in its way, I can imagine, quite enjoyable at the same time, because at least you understand each other's racing style, you understand each other's driving style and racecraft. So it gives you a really, really nice sort of battle to be had there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it sucked that it had to happen there, because that's the worst spot to go too wide. But
yeah,
just where it ended up, and neither of us want to give it up, especially with Casa, flying behind us. We knew if it didn't happen there, Casa was going to get through, because Casa was on a mission. Whenever he got close, that Merc just took over.
Yeah, absolutely. That Merc is a very, very fast car. It's always been fast. I think it was more so. Yeah, it's just overall, it's a very, very well balanced car. I think is the Mercedes. Brilliant. Well, Katie, before we let you go, anyone you'd like to give a quick shout out to?
Just my buddy Matthew Plaisance. He didn't have too good of a race this time, but we had this thing: if one of us does well, the other one does bad. So we're keeping that streak alive.
Well, no. Oh, excuse me. No, it's still, well, again, really, really good to catch up with you both. We look forward to catching up with yourself, with both you guys, hopefully, next week in similar circumstances.
Yep. Hopefully it's a good race next week.
All right, there you go. That was Brent Bravata. Thanks so much for joining us, Brent. And hopefully we're going to see you next week at Silverstone. Brent, our winner tonight in the Pro-Am category. Now let's bring in Daniel, our overall winner, driver of the number 57 machine, the BMW that just seems so bloody fast. He came home, almost took the win at Daytona, took the win on track last week at Spa, and here taking the win tonight at Watkins Glen. PJ Sturgios. Over to you, Daniel.
Thank you, Greg. PJ, can you hear us? Are you there?
Oh, yeah, we got you.
Brilliant stuff. How was everything going? I tell you what, congratulations. That was a dominant win, I think, is the best way to put that. Talk it, from the period of as soon as you got in the lead, and me and Greg were saying this on the broadcast, as soon as you got in the lead, bear in mind, you just sort of upped and left. How, I think, is the best question to ask.
Yeah, this is usually a pretty good track for me. Won the Coke Series race here in 2016, so I was hoping to make up some points this week, because I know once we get to some of these later rounds, like Montreal and Silverstone, and some of the tracks where I'm lacking a bit, I'm going to have to be able to have a little bit of cushion there. So I really wanted to push hard tonight. Sean was not really making any mistakes except when he was behind me, so I think he made one at the end and lost a few seconds in one of the pit cycles, and that turned out to be the difference at the end. But yeah, a lot of fun, a lot of give and take out there once everybody's settled in, and it was good to finally get a win under the belt.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, again, at the pace that you had, that I'm sure that'll be one of the first of many. The rate that was, honestly, a very, very good stuff. How did BM fare throughout the stint itself and throughout the race? Was there a noticeable drop off in the tires or anything like that, or did the car feel pretty stable throughout?
Yeah, I think this track suited the BMW really well, because after the first pit stop, it kind of slowed up a little bit and started to gain a touch of understeer, but it kind of stayed really consistent after that. So I gotta thank the guys at NX Racing. They helped me prepare this car tonight with this kind of balance. That makes it a lot easier when you don't have to fight the balance of the car throughout the race. So hopefully we can kind of keep that rolling. Silverstone's a much more technical track, so definitely gonna have to rethink a few things for next week.
Absolutely, no problem at all. Well, PJ, good to catch up with you. Anyone like to give a quick shout out on the broadcast too?
Just like I said, the guys over at NX Racing, they for all their support, getting setups ready, paint schemes, and whatever else is needed, and of course SimuCube for these awesome sim wheels. These things really add to the realism of it.
Absolutely, they certainly do indeed. PJ, again, congratulations on the race win in the pro category. Absolutely dominant drive, and we look forward to catching up with you again next week.
Thanks, guys.
All right, there you go. PJ Sturgios, driver of the number 57 NX Racing BMW, our winner tonight in the pro category and overall. And so, Daniel, that should wrap things up for us here tonight from Watkins Glen International. Of course, we certainly urge you to check out our great sponsors. They're listed down in the description below. Here, Race Anywhere, who is our title sponsor for the Drivers' Championship. They are giving away to the winner of each class a pro sim rig. And a great prize. You definitely want to check them out. They ship worldwide and have great stock. In addition to that, Sim3D, you can check them out at sim3d.co.uk. And of course, to find out all about the Race Anywhere Transatlantic Series, head on over to www.worldseriesleagues.co.uk. But before you leave tonight, what we need you to do, give us a big thumbs up there on YouTube. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and subscribe to Absolute Sim Racing and click on the notification bell so you can find out about all of the great virtual racing events that we have going on throughout the week and every week here. Again, Absolute Sim Racing. Check us on out. And we've mentioned it a couple times here. Next week, we're going to be heading across the pond back towards Daniel's home. And a matter of fact, I'm going to have so many problems getting across. I'm not even going to be here next week. So I'm going to leave it in Daniel's very capable hands. We're going to be at Silverstone for round number 4 of the Race Anywhere Transatlantic Series. And then I'll be rejoining for round 5 when we descend upon Road America. But for Daniel Handover, I'm Greg Ginsburg. We'll see you again next Wednesday night.